Out front now, Israel Defense Forces spokesman Major Doron Spielman with us. Major, as you just heard in our report, there have been several strikes in Rafah, which is largely considered a safe zone. So many civilians have evacuated there. The instructions that they've gotten have been very confusing. Communications has been a problem when they're trying to navigate a complicated map like this. What do you say to them?
Thank you for having me, Brianna. First of all, the situation in Gaza is truly a very difficult situation for anybody to look at. And we have to understand that in considering the civilian situation, including in Rafah, it cannot be considered without the main word, which is Hamas. Hamas is repeatedly firing from the Rafah crossing, from the Rafah humanitarian zone, from the Al-Mawasi humanitarian zone. And in each of those cases, when Hamas is firing, even from a building, if that is an imminent threat towards Israeli civilians, it is our moral duty to respond and to try to eliminate them. The problem is that they are always surrounding themselves with either humanitarian aid agencies or civilians. And so this is constantly a scene that we see repeating itself. It could end in one day, Brianna. If Hamas would simply decide to get up and move away from their civilians and face Israel on the open battlefield and not cowardly hide behind families, then the humanitarian situation in Gaza would end right away.
And it is true, they are using human shields, and they have a history of doing that. That is a war crime. Israel certainly still has obligations under law. That is also very true. And just today, the UN says one of its aid convoys was fired upon by the IDF, that they were on a designated route. They had actually been in touch with the IDF about their route. Why is the IDF firing on a designated route on a convoy like this, or do you dispute that this is how this happened?
I can tell you two things about this. First of all, as the former reporter said, we're investigating this. We take this very seriously. The last thing we want to do is to fire on a humanitarian organization. We never, ever intentionally fire on a humanitarian organization. The issue with Gaza is it is a hornet's nest. And if there is a convoy, we've seen Hamas stop these convoys numerous times. They steal the food, they steal the fuel. We have medical supplies going in today for 1.5 million people to inoculate them. These are all targets for Hamas.
These are folks returning. These were folks returning from a humanitarian run in vehicles clearly marked UN. What are the rules and protocols and precautions that your soldiers are taking to use restraint in situations like this?
We are, as I mentioned, the entire strata of the IDF is aware that Gaza is full of civilians, humanitarian organizations, our own hostages, which are there beneath the ground, and Hamas militants. In every single case, our soldiers, our aircraft are directed to weigh each scenario. We have never, since this entire war began, struck a civilian target intentionally. Mistakes do happen. This is a difficult place. If this was a mistake and if this is verified, we will come forth and say it. What I can say, though, is that the issue of Gaza is an unparalleled playing field. We are trying to not hit humanitarian convoys and civilians, and Hamas is constantly still shooting rockets at Israeli civilians. Each one of those rockets is a war crime. So we're in a difficult situation, but the last thing we want to do is to see any damage come to these humanitarian aid groups.
Major Spielman, thank you for your time this evening. We appreciate it.